Hey there guys, do I have an exercise and a half for you today? Today we're going to be talking about the Hindu push-up, also called Dand, and very similar to another exercise called the dive bomber. So essentially, the Hindu push-up, if you've not heard of it before, is a push-up where you're starting in something akin to a pike push-up position or even a downward dog, and then you're going to dive down towards the ground and swoop up at the top. This has so many benefits. It's an exercise I think that everyone should be doing, and yet so few people do it. Why is no one doing it? This is something we need to put a stop to, but never fear, the pioneer is here. So first let me try and sell you on why you should be doing the Hindu push-up. I'll try and convince you of its benefits. This is a single exercise that can improve your hamstring flexibility, your shoulder strength, your core strength, your pecs, your triceps, even open up your shoulders and build coordination. It's a fantastic movement then, and because you're getting all this in one go, it means you don't have to spend long amounts of time stretching on a mat somewhere. So to begin with, you're starting off in what is essentially a downward dog position. Now here there's no strict requirement to get your heels flat on the floor or to keep your legs nice and straight. However, there's no reason not to aim for that, because if you do, then you're getting this fantastic hamstring stretch, this fantastic calf stretch. And so many of us have tight hamstrings and tight calves, which impedes our movements, whether we're jumping or running, which makes us stiff and achy in the mornings, particularly in the lower back, and which just robs us of energy. If you can't easily reach down and touch the floor or kick above your head, then you're going to find that this makes you feel generally stiffer. You'll recover more slowly from workouts and you'll be much more likely to injure yourself. So finding a way to incorporate this kind of stretch into your routine without spending ages just in downward dog doing nothing is a fantastic win. At the same time, this is also a brilliant stretch for your shoulders, because in that position you're going to be trying to push your head and shoulders through the arms, keeping them nice and straight and opening up the shoulders that way, improving your overhead mobility, therefore improving things like handstand push-up, military press, etc. This is even going to build your compressive strength, as this should be an active kind of stretch where you're using your core and your hip flexors to compress your own body. A pike push-up, of course, being an exercise that you can use to build up to the handstand push-up, where you're diving down at a much steeper angle and thereby putting the emphasis on your deltoids. You're getting that same starting position with a nice eccentric contraction, thereby strengthening those muscles as well. Then, of course, you've got the pecs and the core, because you're keeping these all nice and rigid, and the triceps, even more so than a regular push-up, because your hands are further back down. And then you're opening up the spine, and here comes that thoracic mobility, this spine mobility, which can help you, again, to avoid injury and stiffness, and which at the same time can improve lots of different movements, whether it's the squat and you're trying to keep your back nice and upright, or whether it's an overhead squat, whether it's a back handspring or a bridge. And at the same time, you've got a little forwards lean there with straight arms, so you're building the same kind of straight arm strength and shoulder strength that you would need for something like the planche. All of this in a gentle and controlled way that you can do for relatively high repetitions without a risk of injury. So what a fantastic exercise the Hindu push-up really is. There are a few common mistakes people make with the Hindu push-up, and if you find that this movement feels awkward or difficult, then you might be making some of them yourself. So I'm going to talk you through it here whilst highlighting some issues and things that people normally get wrong. So if you start out in a plank position, this is the best starting position, and you want to stack your wrists underneath your shoulders. That's where things can often go wrong, because if you're too close forwards or too far backwards, then you're going to have a weird pike. It's going to be too narrow and that's going to make it difficult for you to move, or it's going to be too long and you're going to be too stretched out. So if you start from here, you should be in a good position. Then you're going to try and put your bum up as high as you can in the air. Get your heels flat onto the ground if you can. Keep your legs straight if you can. Then you're going to dive through the middle, like so, not touching the ground, not resting your waist on the floor. So the whole time you've got a contraction here, looking up with your shoulders and your head now in front of your hands and your arms locked out straight. Then you're going to hold this position for a moment, trying to feel the flexion in the spine just below the shoulder blades if possible, because thoracic extension is really what we want as opposed to lumbar, but obviously that's going to happen as well. And then you just bring the butt back up, straight back into that downward dog position. And like I say, when you're here, try and keep the back flat. Try and push your head through your hands to open up the shoulders nicely. Do it in a controlled motion. You also want to make sure that your hands are far enough apart to get your body through. Some other variations of the Hindu push-up include the Mackenzie push-up. Here what you're going to do is you're going to lie yourself flat on the ground, then you're going to put your arms by your side as they were before, and then just going to raise your upper body, just using the strength in your spine to lift the upper portion of your back as much as you can, not to the point of discomfort or where you feel any kind of twinging, and not pushing off your hands. They're just there for balance. You're just going to use the strength of your upper back. So it's a lot like the Superman in that regard. Of course, don't let Stuart McGill hear you say any of this, but if you check my video on back strength, you'll know that there are multiple views on just how useful it is to extend your spine like this. Or alternatively, if you don't really want the strength component and you just want the stretch component, then what you can do is you can break this down into 2 different movements, the downward dog and then the cobra pose. The downward dog we've already talked about. The cobra pose is slightly different because what you're going to do here is you're going to keep your feet flat, so toes pointing out, but you're still going to keep your hips off of the ground. They're not going to touch the ground, you're not resting at any point, and in fact you're going to push through the hips in order to get a nice stretch on and to engage some strength there as well. And you're just going to hold that position with your back nicely up again. The dive bomber is a movement where you get into that position, which looks very much like the cobra, and then you simply reverse that position back up the way you came. So it looks almost as though you've rewound the movement. This requires more coordination and it's a little bit harder. You've got more of a push going back the other way, so you might want to build up to that one. This is another benefit of the Hindu push-up. It's fantastic for coordination. You have your quadrilateral movements where you're coordinating the left and the right side of your body. Here you're really coordinating the waist with the shoulders and the spine, all moving in one fluid motion. And you've got to be aware of all those things at once. This is the kind of thing that can translate to better movement in martial arts, in dance, and help you to learn skills more quickly, especially because you're building that mobility at the same time. It also activates the vestibular system because your head is swooping like this. It really wakes you up because the brain's like, what's going on? There's a lot of movement here, and it needs to coordinate itself and it needs to figure out where you are in space. It's a great YouTube channel where you can learn more about this called Original Strength. I highly recommend checking it out. And to do this, your brain's going to use signals that come from your whole body, but particularly your neck, where you have a particularly high density of muscle spindles, these being sensors that tell us about movement and about changes in length. And what you're going to do is use that information coming from your neck, from these muscle spindles, to figure out where your head is in relation to the rest of your body. So you've got the vestibular system in your ears shaking around and moving about, and your body would think that you're falling if it wasn't for the senses, the proprioception it's getting from the rest of your body, and particularly your neck, so it knows where your head is in space compared with the rest of your body. So learning this is fantastic for improving like your aerial mobility if you're doing jumps and things, and your balance in general. And a lot of us have very stiff necks. We all know that we have the hunched over texting position neck. So if you're stretching out the neck and keeping it nice and loose, then again, not only is this going to help you to limber up and avoid stiffness and injury and pain, it's also going to further improve your balance and your vestibular control. Hey guys, Adam from the future here, and no, the months haven't been kind. So another variation is the Hanuman Dand, or the Hanuman Hindu push-up, and Hanuman being a Indian god, I think. I'm certainly not the person to be asking about that, but essentially what you're going to do here is you're going to bring one leg up, step forwards and through, thereby getting a really nice stretch on the hip flexors. Then you're going to perform push-ups in that position and also arch and raise the back in a similar manner, so it looks something like this. As you can see, slightly less of a sweeping motion, but I've seen it done with more of a sweeping motion, and I think it's really what you find useful and comfortable. Cool thing about this is it might look familiar if you do animal flow. It looks like the front step, and in a similar manner you can combine it with things like a kick through or all kinds of other variations to create this kind of amazing push-ups flow, which is something that I really like to do. So I hope you found this video useful and interesting, guys. If you did, then please leave a like and share it around. That helps me out immensely. Of course, if you want to see more like it, then subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notifications. And let me know in the comments down below whether you use the Hindu push-up already, whether this video has convinced you to use it now, and what other movements you'd like to see me highlight on this channel in future. If you want to find more exercises like this, and if you want to train in a way that does more than just build strength and aesthetics, but also trains mobility, speed, reflexes, balance, even brain function, then you might enjoy my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training, which you can find in the description down below. I also have a print book out called Functional Training and Beyond, which is an introduction to functional training as it applies to the general population and athletes. Either way, thank you so much for watching this one, guys. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.